Good morning, ma'am.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
All right. Um, I'm not going to wait today. I'm going to jump into the class. I have a flight right after this call, so I will finish preferably 10 minutes before the normal time so that I can get ready for my cab. Projecting the screen and starting the session now. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, ma'am. Very clear.
Okay. So last time we spoke about various kind of risks that we encounter in digital transformation. Just for a quick recap, I'm going to go back 2 slides so that you remember the context as to what we were talking about. If you remember, we spoke about disruptive needs for the workforce of the future. We spoke about the various digital competencies that will become essential for people to stay relevant in the new world. We also spoke about what are the seven disruptors that have been observed, studied, and documented to convert the findings into digital competencies. So these seven disruptors will drive the essentiality, the validation of these six digital competencies that will heavily influence the digital transformation of not only learning and development, but the other aspects of the life also. Okay. Then we are going to talk about if you, and I had given the home plate to study. In the book, there are some examples of some of the digital transformations which went horribly wrong. So, what is the reason for a digital transformation going wrong? And what are the risks for digital transformations going wrong? First, we will need to understand the risks of digital transformation before we try to see how to fix those risks or mitigate those risks. So we will begin with the first, which is people. And needless to say, in case you have not planned what to do with the people who are going to be laid off, what to do with the people who will have to be upskilled, what to do with the people whose jobs will either reduce or become way more larger, there is a high chance that your digital transformation will fall flat on its face. Your planning of all the people who will be involved and impacted in the digital journey is important. In addition to this, when we talk about people, you also have to take into consideration the people who will be driving the digital transformation. So you told them that, we will be doing digital transformation and people are excited about it. But when finally it starts getting rolled out, people get jittery. They don't really understand what's happening. They are confused. So if you have a confused team of people, how will your implementation be? It will be a confused implementation. So it's important for you to understand how to take into consideration the people aspect and the people impact of your digital transformation. Whenever you get time, please look at the examples. I've given verbatim comments and quoted some examples which you can read. In case it's a white paper that's mentioned, I will also send over the white paper after the call today. Then there's lack of research. You did it because somebody else did it. You did it because the competitor did it without understanding the impact or in the organization, the long-term, short-term goals, budgets, how many systems will need to be phased out, how many new systems will need to be integrated. You just go and implement a program. This is called lack of research. You have to research which tool works for you the best. And when I say you, it is the organization. You are a part of the organization, or in case it's your business, it's a part of the business. But unless and until you research how all the 7S, all the McKinsey 7S get impacted by your digital transformation, there is a high probability that it will not be successful. The third one, needless to say, I think this runs through not only digital transformation, it also runs through any other communication or change that you are trying to drive. In case there is poor communication, in case there is lack of alignment among people, which example I quoted right in the beginning when I was talking about people, when everybody is confused, nobody knows what's happening, everybody's like, I don't know, something's happening, I'm not really sure, what are they trying to do? That is the problem. Your digital transformation will not be able to deliver the results for which you have done the hard work. Lack of measure. So there are multiple examples of this. You would have noticed that in organizations, there are a lot of initiatives that are rolled out, and after 3 months, everybody forgets about them. So everybody gets a pat on the back. There are a lot of people who take credit for it. But eventually, when it comes to see, was this initiative even successful? Are people really using this tool? Are people really liking this tool? Is there any feedback? Is there any improvement required? That is where your measurement metrics become important. So not only for digital transformation, the advice that I would give, and it's again a guideline, it's your choice whether you want to follow. In case you are launching an initiative, make sure that right in the beginning, measures of success are clearly defined. When they are clearly defined, it doesn't mean that I cannot change it along the way. I can, but in the beginning, just to begin with, there should be a few measurement metrics. Now let's take an example. I will take my example. I am implementing a project management academy in my organization. In our organization, in spite of being such a huge organization, there hasn't been learning analytics properly implemented. So every department does their own analytics. Now, since this initiative is being rolled out at the central level, most of the leaders are interested, how will you measure the success? So I have gone back saying that we can measure by so many metrics. To which my leaders have come back and said, well, we don't want to police our people. We are doing this for the first time centrally. Why don't we start with some basic metrics? And the basic metric would be rate of completion, participation hours. Of course, there will be 3 or 4 levels of feedback, and also how much time people took to complete the training. Basic, clear, identified, and agreed upon. All the factors that we spoke about has been taken care. Now, when people will be wanting to look at those analytics and taking a further decision about whether we should continue this, whether we should change something about it, then it becomes an iterative journey. If you remember, we spoke about 7 disruptors. Iteration is the key. And iteration is nothing but the process in which you continue to stay agile. You are ready to change and refresh, evolve, devolve whatever is required at that point in time without being stuck up in structure. You operate as a part of a system. So, lack of measurement explained. The last one, doing too much too soon. I think we spoke about it when I was talking about the transformation pillars. I spoke about people rushing into implementing a solution without really seeing whether the people are ready for it, whether the organization is ready for it, and is it too early? In case we start now, is there a chance that people will reject it? So if you do too much too soon without allowing the change to settle, without allowing new ways of working to become become the default for people, there is a chance that your digital transformation will not work. So these are the few risks of digital transformation. So some of you might say, oh, well, you spoke about the risks. What do we do about it? So there are some models that I wanted to share with all of you. How do you mitigate the risks? Very interesting models, pretty logical, very simple to understand, and they are in the screen in front of you. You do not have to scramble to write notes. All of this textually is provided in your book exactly in this sequence. Don't worry. Right now, focus on trying to understand what these various models are and how they are relevant to you, how, which situation you can, in what situation you can use which one. Feel free to ask questions because this is where I talk about practical applicability of what you are learning. So this is something that you will experience, risks and risk mitigation in your regular jobs. So if I had to go into the first model, it says factor training into your digital transformation model. Of course, we are doing a digital transformation of training and development. But if you notice, the model talks strongly about the first step being awareness, awareness of the need of change. क्यों कर रहे हैं? Why are we doing this? चल तो रहा है, क्या दिक्कत है? So why is the change required? Not only verbally, and it is not good enough reason because Microsoft is doing it, because everybody is doing AI, that's why we are doing it. There has to be a data-backed, research validated reason of why you are introducing a change. And there has to be a planned communication system to make people casually, formally, informally aware of the change that is about to happen and the need for it. So the first step of making sure that your model is successful or whatever changes you are planning is successful is to invest in awareness. It is also a part of your transformation pillar, but then here we are talking strictly from the point of view of covering risks. In case any of the parts have not been done really well in the past and you have managed to reach a certain stage now and you realize, oh, wo to reh gaya, should have done it better. In that situation, creating the awareness from scratch or wherever you left, maybe spending more time, investing more time in increasing the awareness of people about the change can be valuable. Then desire to support the change. Only when there is awareness, there will be a lot of people who would say, yes, this will really simplify my life. What can I do to help? And here I'm saying the people who will support you would be generally from the leadership, generally from the middle management, who are the ones who face the problems which you are trying to solve. So, getting people aware enough to ignite the desire for them to help you. And then knowledge of the change, how to change. Everybody said, oh, wow, this will help me. You said, I have a plan. Now you have to pass the knowledge about how the change will take place. Let's take an example. You were using a Cognos software earlier, and now for your trainings, you will need to go to a different portal, which will be accessed differently. It will be single sign on. You will not have to sign on using different username passwords. Once signed on, it will not forget you. Do not have to sign on again and again. You can access it from your mobile. You can access it from your handheld devices. And every interface, it will look different. So now you are passing on the knowledge and you're making sure that people, you are empowering people to know how the change will take place. And then ability to demonstrate skills and behaviors. Now, when you provide knowledge to people, what are you doing? You're empowering them to showcase their capabilities about the skills and the behavior changes that you have targeted through your plan. And the last stage is reinforcement. Unless and until you keep doing active recalls, refreshing people's memories that this change, please do not go back to old ways of working. This change is here to stay. And further, we will be bringing next phases or levels of change. People will slide back to older ways of working. So reinforcement can happen through, when you're looking at a classroom scenario, it can happen through a small game, can be done through a recap, can be done through a quiz, can be done through a self-assessment module, or in the longer run, when you're in the job, it can be done through regular refreshers, it can be done through tests in situations like pharma, which are life-threatening, situations like automobile, where design specifications are so important. If you're bringing in digital transformation there, the frequency has to be more um, closer again and again instead of doing it once a year or twice a year. You might want to do it every 3 months. You might want to do it every 2 months. But reinforcement is the key to making sure that the change sticks. We say, otherwise, people talk about the stickiness factor. You have to make sure that the change sticks. And that is possible when you invest in a model which reinforces the knowledge of people. People will be irritated because we are trying to reinforce knowledge, but grow a thick skin. Nobody likes to do refreshers, but it's important to make sure that, hey guys, I hope you remember these changes are coming. When they come, if you are able to understand this right now, you will be able to have an easier time when more changes show up in your life. Excuse me. That's the first model we talked. Okay, easy to understand, pretty simple, logical, common sense. The next model that we talk about is preparing for resistance to transformation. This is more, I would say, from the point of view of being a trainer, being a learning expert. What are the three levels of resistance and change? So, one of the biggest things that you will notice more and more um, frequently when you are trying to implement change is people resist change. When you talk to them, they want the change, they are all excited, they want to run with you. But when finally the change comes, everybody looks for reasons why it shouldn't happen that way. Everybody resists in these small ways. So, what are the three levels of resistances you are expected to encounter? And how can you plan for each level of resistance? What will be your smart remarks? What will be your actions? What will be your comebacks in case there are any resistances? So, the first one, I don't get it. I don't understand the purpose and or how the change will happen. I'm confused. That's your first level of resistance. When you're providing the awareness, when you're providing knowledge, when you're giving examples, you are showing prototypes, you are showing dummy models, you are giving people sandbox experiences, you can start dealing and you can start settling, calming people down from this stage where they will very seamlessly migrate into the next level of resistance. I don't like it. I don't like the change. It's an emotional reaction. Too much work, too much tracking. क्यों भरना है timesheet? Why do you want me to fill in timesheets? My life was simpler. I would write whatever I want in Excel. Now you want me to go open a software, select drop downs, track my time, put in explanations. Why do I need to do it? I don't like it. And that is where, again, you will have to patiently have the benefits listed out, not only for the employee, but also in the larger scheme of things. Again, it will require patience. It will require you to be prepared with data, numbers, benefits, advantages to be able to break that level of resistance. And from that level of resistance, people go to the sense when you're pushing, I don't like you, lack of trust and lack of confidence. Because you're trying to push the change, you become a devil. Now, people from human resources will relate to that. Somebody goes from the human resource department and says, guys, we are bringing about a change. Now, instead of having to work for 3.5 hours at a stretch, you will have to work for 4, but you will get a half an hour break in between. This is for efficiency. This is for giving you a mental break in between. This will also make sure that there is continuity. The half an hour is not really additional work. It is allowing you to relax your mind, etc. This is something that everybody is agreed with. So we are going to do it. Now, when you go through all the levels of resistance, eventually you are the devil because you brought something to people which has to be really pushed, which has to be really sold. And unless and until everybody around, especially from the leadership team, is exhibiting that behavior, embracing the change, it can be a tough cookie to crack. But for you as a learning expert, it's important to prepare for all the three levels of resistance that people can show. What is the easiest to deal with? There isn't a proper answer. I can tell you what my personal experience is. I generally do well at I don't get it and I don't like it. But when I reach the stage where there are people who have a resistance, I don't like you, I don't work too hard. Over a period of time, people will see it in the larger scheme of things. And in a professional environment, I don't like you doesn't exist for too long because everybody knows that we have to all work together. Change is happening, whether you like it or not. So that pretty much dissolves by itself. But if you're able to break the first two level of resistances, you should be okay. But then it requires patience. It requires data. It requires multiple levels, rounds of conversations and communication with people to be able to break. Now, the third one is something which is all of us do, maintaining momentum by celebrating short-term wins. So when changes happen, there is a version that gets bit kind of passes the toll gates. You're able to say, okay, finally we have all our modules that we wanted for learning online, they're live, you can access it, you can click it, it can open, everybody can see it, nobody is getting any error screens. Celebrate it. Now, it's not like going out and having a pastry, as in celebrate it by announcing, by communicating, and also maybe having a pastry, spreading the happiness around people and also showcasing, okay, we began here, we reached here, and now we have to go there. It's again a very sophisticated recall to keep people on course. Otherwise, what happens is the adrenaline rises, and then when there is the first milestone, everybody fizzles out. The recall is important to tell people that we have ways to go. We still have a long way to go, but good job done till now. The fourth one is solidifying transformation as the new form. So this I briefly referred to when I was doing the chapter 2 um, earlier part, where we talk about unfreeze, change, and rephrase. So when we say, and I'm sorry, the spelling of change is incorrect in the diagram, I will correct it. There is unfreeze. When we talk about unfreeze, we talk about the acknowledgement that there is change required. What needs to change? This is like unfreezing. You get your ice cubes out of the fridge, you're leaving it open, you are letting it dissolve because you're getting ready for something new. So if I had to talk in the mythological sense, destruction comes before creation. So this is where you are choosing what to destroy and what to create further. So unfreeze is a nicer word instead of destruction, which has a negative connotation to it. When we say unfreeze, the first step is to recognize the need for change. The second step is to determine what needs to change. The third is encourage the replacement of old with new. I keep talking about ways of working. When we talk about ways of working, there's a certain way in which all of us are used to work. So you have to gradually, consistently, patiently replace the old ways of working with new ways of working. And then ensure there is strong support from the management. So you manage to push the change, but the leaders are not vocal about it. There is conflict in coffee table conversations, water cooler conversations, cigarette conversations. People are saying, है तो मगर complications भी हैं बहुत अच्छे से implement नहीं हुआ. You have to make sure that everybody is talking the same language. You have a solid bond with leadership, and the corridor conversations support your cause. You have a strong support from management and understand the doubts and concerns. Again, logical, simple, but all these steps together will come under your unfreeze. What is the change? Of course, we are planning for the change. We are following all these transformation pillars. We are following the strategy. We are looking at all the 7S. So basically, in brief, all the course that we are doing right now as a part of risk mitigation, it simply says plan the change, implement the change, help employees to learn new concepts. So it is basically our entire course summarized into the change metric. And then we are saying rephrase. Now, this is where I always spend some time. Rephrase is important. And I referred to it in the previous model also. People love to go into their comfort zone. They do not like change. So the moment you will leave them alone, they will go back to old ways of working. They will stop using the software. They'll stop reading, going into their online learning journey. They will start complaining about things not working. Password lock ho gaya, wo chal nahi raha. All kinds of things you will listen to. So make sure that the change is reinforced on regular intervals and the change is stabilized. Keep checking for bugs. Keep checking for feedback. Keep updating content. Do not take any archived, inappropriate, inaccurate, I'm sorry, not inappropriate, inaccurate content lying in the knowledge portal, something which has changed 3 days back. Decide a schedule. Who is going to provide me updates? How am I going to upload those updates? Who are the people who are going to help me make sure that everything is clean, well administered? Is there a governance mechanism? So it's important to make sure that you stabilize the change, show people you're serious about it, and this is here to stay. Integrate the change into the normal way of life, develop ways to sustain the change, and celebrate success. These are the four models that you can use. Again, guidances. You choose which one works for you. For me, I think they're simple, logical, human beings are capable of this kind of clear thought. But sometimes when somebody puts it in the form of a model, it makes our life convenient. It's easier to follow. It's easier to practice. So these are the four models that will help you mitigate the risks of digital transformation. I'm going to pause for questions, but before that, I wanted to tell you that these are the three case studies that you'll be receiving for you to study. Heads up, in your assessments, you will receive case studies for which you will need to provide responses based on the information that you have in the book and what we've been able to cover. My idea is to totally scare you, because if you are scared now, you will end up reading the material. If you read up the material, you'll be able to do your assignment well, which adds to your credits for exam. And when in the exam case studies come up, you will not be surprised. It will not be a board from the blue. So again, try looking at the case studies, not immediately, but the assignments will come soon. I'm not sure when it will show up, but then Gurvinder will tell me. When the assignment questions show up, please use your imagination. Do not lift and shift from the internet. Do not give copy-paste answers. Try and use the knowledge you have received in the last few chapters to be able to respond. Yes. Question. Go ahead.
Uh, Ma'am, actually, we already received the assignment questions.
Okay. And does
Uh,
it have case studies in it?
Sorry?
Does it have case studies in it?
No, we don't have any case study in it.
Oh, wow. You received the assessments and you don't have case studies. Who sent the assessment to you? Where did it come from?
Assessment means assignment questions.
Assignment
No,
questions, yes.
yeah. I think Gurvinder shared it with us. And there
Okay.
are two questions. One is about digital transformation, and I think one is about LMS integration.
Okay. So I didn't set that question paper. All right. Good.
Uh,
Good for you.
okay. But the thing
Okay.
is, the deadline for the assignments is 31st October, and the questions related to LMS, we are totally blank about it because we have not reached to that point yet. So
Yeah,
we
you
are,
have. That's why you don't give that in the assignment. Who sent it? Let me check with Gurvinder. But that's okay. If they've sent it out, those are the assignments. Assessment. Must be. Give me one
but
second.
yeah, okay, sure.
Assessment has been sent. Because I am supposed to know when the assessment is sent.
ओ कितना खर्चा बता रहा है
कितना खर्चा बता रहा है मैं बताती हूँ 3 करोड़ खर्चा बता रहा है मेरे को दे दो मैं कर दूंगी ओके so let's move on so Prasad, thanks for letting me know. I will so I take my comments back. You guys will be surprised for case studies. Yay, you will not know what to do.
Actually, ma'am, the problem is that the deadline is 31st October,
Yes.
and I mean, the question related to LMS, I mean, I'm struggling how to write answer for that because we have not studied that yet.
Yeah, you haven't studied, and I cannot skip to LMS till the time I've covered the rest of it. And I haven't said the paper, so that's something that we should be talking to Gurvinder. Because
Actually, we have
that is not a question that you can put in the assessment because people haven't studied it. So
we have requested the extension for them, and maybe
I would say that request for an extension because that will make more sense.
Yes, we have already requested it, and when we are yet to receive any response from them on that.
So they're saying old questions picked by ISTD, LMS.
Ma'am, out of curiosity, you will not be correcting this the assignments, is it?
No, you will get good marks. If I correct, I will give you 0.
I thought we will
Oh,
get
just
grace
joking.
marks
Just
because
joking.
you.
No, but generally, so I will tell you, when I give assessments, because till last year I was doing the assessments and systems keep getting changed based on the management's decision. I always give case studies for people to have an idea about how to use the transformational pillars, how to use the 7S, and how to use risk mitigation. These are the 3 topics because इस time तक उतना ही पढ़ते हैं हम लोग, उसके आगे नहीं पढ़ पाते. So this time I think they've just gone ahead and yeah, so gone ahead and given questions based on last year's question papers. So that's why it's gone a little because they are not aware as to what has been taught. They might have found the question to be interesting and then that's why they've given it. That's okay. No worries. Don't worry. You will get an extension or whatever is required. All right. So these are the case studies that you will receive. I will send them to you. They're also at the end of your your textbook. You can read them there too. And there are some additional materials that you will receive, which is McKinsey's 21 Keys to Success in Digital Transformation. And I'll mention page numbers which are relevant for you. Unlocking Success in Digital Transformation, examples of companies that have mastered digital transformation, and digital transformation examples, companies that did it right. Okay. These are additional reading. I keep telling this. This is not mandatory. This is for your understanding, your connection to the learning. If you do not want to read it, it's okay. But if you do read it, your approach towards solving your section B of your question paper, which is generally case studies, will be easier. It will be clearer for you to apply the concepts. Okay, so that's the end of module number 2 that we were supposed to finish last time. We couldn't. I'm going to scoot over to module number 3, but before that, questions, comments, clarification. Let's take a breath and let me also switch the presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Any questions, clarifications? Any doubts other than the assignment? Because that is definitely going to be a wedgie. No questions? You all know, right? No question is a bad idea. Nobody has no questions. That means nobody has studied anything.
And actually, people are working on the assignments because the deadline is very close now.
What assignment would you work on if you're not even going through the material and reading the material? Your assignment will not be great. Maybe people are Googling like mad because that's what people do when they write the assignment. They're entertainment to read, by the way. If you read the assignments, it's super entertaining because people write all kinds of things from the internet. They find all kinds of answers, which are sometimes even hilariously relevant, and they put it in the assignment. Are you guys doing that? Come on, guys, talk to me. I'm not that bad a person. Talk to me. We are what? 16 people in the group. Nobody has anything to say. Everybody wants to sit on mute and just listen. Nobody. Okay. Module number 3.
Ma'am, the reason was actually what you type of explaining, the people are able to understood everything because the way of explaining the things that is totally great, ma'am. That's what there is a no question maybe.
Really? Wow. I should go buy myself a treat on the way to the airport.
Yeah.
I'll buy a pastry or I will have a nice coffee. Thank you for saying that. Really appreciate it. All right. So now we are going deeper into the subject. I want all of you to pay attention, start listening to the recordings. If you're not a part of the class, it will become, no, I wouldn't say complicated. It will become serious from now. Till now, it was pretty baby steps. Now we are going to talk about concepts like upskilling of people. which is the core part of our job as a learning expert. So, and this is a comment because I'm expecting you guys to read the case studies. So I was supposed to finish this. So it says, let's talk about your case studies, which means that if you have any questions, so we will do this slide, but we will do it next time. When you come back, hopefully you would have any questions. So the topics we'll cover in this module is what is a skilled workforce? What does upskilling mean? What does reskilling mean? What does de-skilling mean? So we will also talk about the generation viewpoint of learning. We'll talk about aspects of upskilling. We'll talk about the dynamics of upskilling. Now, these are two different things. We will talk about upskilling in action, which will like literally how you go about it step by step. Then how do you balance learning and working, which is, I think most of us have mastered it by this time, thanks to COVID. But then how do you continue balancing it without burnout? And then there will be some additional material that I will give you for reading. We will do this module in two sections. The first module will be skilled workforce, need for skilled workforce, upskilling, generational viewpoint, and aspects of upskilling. And the next module will be the rest of the topic. I'll try and cover as much as I can. Like I said, I will try to finish at 5 or 10 minutes to 7 o'clock today. So I will teach 10 minutes less. But then whatever is left, we'll pick up and we'll catch up and finish the next time. So would anybody want to comment upon what is a skilled workforce? What does upskilling mean? What does de-skilling mean? And what does reskilling mean? What is the difference between all these terms? Does everybody use them interchangeably, or is there a visible cognitive difference in them? Anybody would like to comment?
I
Ma'am,
meant,
upskilling is
Sorry, go ahead. Now both of you have gone quiet. Somebody has to win.
let the lady win.
Okay.
thank you. Yeah, ma'am, just read this side. So upskilling means learning new skill,
Upskilling means learning new skill. Okay.
additional skill,
Okay. Hmm.
and de-skilling I have heard first time. It will be like unlearning something which we have learned something earlier,
Hmm.
and
And
reskilling is
reskilling.
what already I know. I'm learning like next level of it. Like if I know Excel basic, then I'm learning the advanced Excel.
हाँ okay 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 जसप्रीत यही करेक्शन कर दूंगी मैं so
Okay.
रीस्किलिंग के साथ आप कंफ्यूज होगे अपस्किलिंग में so अगर आपको आपने if you have learned Excel basic and you are going to Excel advanced, that is
Okay, that is upskilling.
upskilling.
Okay, okay.
Reskilling is we used to do the work in a certain way and now we are going
Okay.
to do it in a different way. But the outcome is going to be the same. For example, earlier you will have to walk 5 miles to take the bus and reach the same destination. But now you'll be taking the tube, which is the metro. So you just
Okay.
have to walk 5 minutes. So now you have to buy an e-ticket. Earlier you used to buy a paper ticket. Now you have to you don't have to stand in lines. You will have to book your ticket online. Earlier you used need to stand in line. So the outcome of the action is still the same, but now the ways of working have changed. What is de-skilling? It's interesting because very few people have heard it. Those people in human resources, unfortunately, nowadays, it's a common thing. You do not de-skill people, you de-skill jobs. What is a de-skilling of job mean? De-skilling of a job means that a job that earlier could be done only by an engineer, by an MBA, by an 11-year experienced person, now being done by a graduate or an average experienced person, 3 to 4 years, or even not being done by a human being anymore. For example, I met my friend last week from Siemens when I was in India. And he's like, we are having a great time. I said, why? The accounts payable department used to give us so much grief. I said, what do you mean? He would say that these guys will receive the invoice and we would send them, first of all, through courier. They would not take any action on scanned copies. They would sit on these invoices. And then finally, when they would receive the hard copy, they will match figures. And then some of the figures won't match because of their callous error or lack of intelligence. And they would keep doing back and forth. And then we had to, again, send a different copy. We had talked to the vendor. It was such a mess to get payments released. Now we have this software which looks at the scan copy and it compares the original copy. It looks for trends of payment in the past. It flags anomalies. And the same accounts payable team, which now earlier used to take 7 to 10 days to release payments, irrespective of net terms, and now the payment can get released in 3 days. And the impact is that now we do not need 360 people sitting in Hyderabad doing the job. We just have 12 people. Now, the job description for that job that was earlier, person has to be a CA, has to have all kinds of accreditations and certifications and all kinds of experiences and financial knowledge, has now gone down to somebody who is a simple graduate, or maybe a little bit more, who has financial knowledge, understands finances, knows ledger entries, etc., has bookkeeping experience. And that's it. The job has now been effectively, efficiently, productively, in a money-saving way, descaled. So when the human resource department, which is the recruitment department in that case, will go in the market, they will no longer be looking for somebody who is so experienced, so expensive. They will be picking up somebody who is way less expensive, but with a very specific skill set to be able to supervise the job instead of having to do the job. Does it make sense, guys? This is not in the book. Any questions?
No, ma'am, understood it.
And this is a part of something called the exercise that we all do. I do not know how many of you are MBAs here, but when you do your MBA in human resources, there is a huge segment on job analysis that you do, in which you evaluate the job. There's job description, there are various aspects of the job, there are job interviews that you have to do to understand who will be able to be successful in this job. That is where we use the term de-skilling of the job or upskilling of the job. You do not de-skill people. The only situation in which you might have to de-skill people is when a certain product is sunset. So if you suddenly, for example, Maruti 800, nobody no longer manufacture it, people no longer use it. There are multiple electronic products that are totally sunset. People who have a very specific skill that was required for the production, manufacturing, overseeing, customer support for those products, they will now have to be de-skilled, which means that they will have to clean their slate of learning, and de-skilling of human beings generally is replaced by upskilling. That's the standard way of going. And upskilling in our sophisticated language is actually learning and development. So upskilling is what you do to people to make their jobs simpler, make the organizational goals more tangible, and for people to add value to their resume, and of course, make more money for the company. Does it make sense? Can I put on the slides now? Is it a good enough introduction for all of you to get an idea what we will be talking about?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jaspreet. Okay, let's go and look at, and the initial first 2 slides are going to be very simple. It talks about a very basic concept called what is a skilled workforce? So, skilled workforce. What is the need of having a skilled workforce? Very simple. Skilled people can do the job. They will maximize productivity. Unskilled people will take more time to be productive. They will be expensive. They'll be wasting time, they'll be wasting effort. wasting energy. So this is the difference when you hire somebody who's an absolute fresher as compared to somebody who is a skilled person, who knows how to do the job. That is the difference. Especially if you hire a fresher from that subject stream or that job stream as compared to a completely rookie who is from a different field, you will feel the difference. The time for people to become productive is called the learning curve. The learning curve is different for different people based on the skills that they pick up in their education and in their previous jobs. So the need, maximize productivity, improved innovation, creativity, problem solving abilities, saving money, improve profitability, stronger growth, positive work relationships. And why do we have to cater to this need is when we identify there are skill gaps. Of course, there are skill gaps in the job. So when you are able to identify the skill gaps, that is the time when you can identify what skills need to be built in an organization through the process of the concept that we will talk about, which is upskill. Now, why do you think skill gaps show up in an organization? There is a huge element which I'm going to connect back to our generational learning is aging workforce. People who are not used to new ways of working, who still work in older ways, and because of non-acceptance of new ways, the change that is happening around us, we seem to fall behind. There's a group of people who are falling behind. So we are putting, with all due respect, say aging workforce. So with the aging workforce causes skill gaps, it is our job as learning experts to empower them, enable them to learn new things, and make sure that that gap is bridged. So when we have digitalization in an organization, the aging workforce can have struggle in adaptation. So upskilling is the process of acquiring new, relevant competencies needed today and in the near future. Common examples of upskilling effort include digital skills, analytical skills, behavioral skills, and organizational transformation skills. Now, how many of you can make the difference between digital skills, analytical skills? I'm sorry, this is wrong. Analytical. I don't know when the slides will change. Sorry, I'm editing, but how many of you can make the difference between digital skills, analytical skills, and behavioral skills, and organizational transformational skills? Anybody wants to take a stab at it? Anyone?
Ma'am, digital skills are like the digital part, the software part of the whole thing. I mean,
Yes.
the digitizations that are coming in, the technologies of the machines that are changing. More machines are now going from a manual to auto system or sensor based. So in manufacturing setup, I'm telling, this is more of a digitization skill. For me, like analytical skills are like the data which we are gathering throughout the period of time, how we are using that data. How we are using the data for predictions or for making decisions in the organization. Behavioral skills are very simple. Like behavioral skills are basically the
Soft skills.
soft skill, human part of the whole thing. And organizational transformation skills are basically the wider part or the umbrella part of the whole thing, wherein we focus on leadership or making more strategic decisions, strategizing things, strategy or situational leadership, strategies, setting strategy or making strategic outcome or strategic outlook rather, and things like that. Entrepreneur skills, just like that.
That's an interesting example. Entrepreneurial skills, encouraging entrepreneurial thought process can be an example of organizational transformation skills. Yes, Pradeep.
And in operational part, what we are saying for digitalization, there is a only reduce of paperwork because in operational part or machine part, we are rather than making all entries in paper, and that entry is available in digitalized form. So we can reduce the activity of recording for a person who is involved in recording everything. So that is the only change for digitalization in operational machines. So I don't think there is a basic skill is required as well as what the person is as an operator, what the person is doing. That skill is still need to be there.
Yes, yes, it has to be there. Now, you're talking about somebody who operates a machine, somebody who is doing a job where the requirement of digital skills is low. But when we are talking about here being a learning expert, we are talking about all levels in the organization. So now, if I had to say, and tell me if any of you differ from this, can we simply say that digital skills is something that we acquire if we have digital literacy? When you learn digital skills, you're increasing your quotient of digital literacy. Now, why am I talking about this? Digital literacy does not always mean that all the skills that you're aware of, all the skills that you acquire, you will be using them on the job. It is about being aware that this skill is available in the organization. It is used in certain part of the organization. I don't use it, that's a separate thing. But I am digitally literate enough to understand in case I have to encounter that job, I should not be lost. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yes.
Digital literacy today includes knowing about Instagram, includes knowing about ChatGPT, includes knowing about Power AI. Somebody sent me the software, which name of the software, which helps you create PowerPoint slides. It includes the knowledge of finding information from the internet about how people plagiarize stuff. It includes knowing what tools can be used to remove background from a picture. It includes skills to know how to edit an audio, edit a video, use your phone to do it, use WhatsApp. All of this comes under digital literacy. But does it mean that all of them are used in your job? Does it mean that you use them every day? Not necessarily.
Like,
Just
ma'am,
like
making payments online, ideally people doesn't know that they are learning new things then.
exactly. Exactly. So when you are learning new things, you are increasing your quotient, your education, your literacy about skills, which makes you relevant, which keeps you sustainable in the future, and it also increases your ability to do different jobs as and when they show up in the future changes. And that is why upskilling should and is nowadays including a whole unit called digital literacy. Now, how far you want to go in that literacy is entirely up to you. For example, some people are just graduates, some people study till 12, some people decide to go masters, some people decide to do PhD in specific subjects. Again, here also, when we talk about digital literacy, it is your choice how much you want to go. With a caution, and because I'm teaching this subject, that's why I have the arrogance to say that it's important for you to be relevant for the future. And for that, higher your digital literacy quotient, better you are to be successful. I'm saying this as why I use the word arrogant is because the next extension of this statement is if you do not stay updated, you will be outdated very soon. And like I gave an example, there are multiple examples in all of your lives. Some of you are talking about it, some of you are not talking about it, where people are being replaced with more efficient people or efficient systems, which works not only for the organization, but also works in the newer scheme of things as to how the world operates today. If you notice the people who are continuing to implement strategies and transform not only themselves but organizations are the one who have a very high quotient of digital literacy, or they have surrounded themselves with teams which are very digitally agile. So they are smart. They got people to work for them who are extremely digitally aligned, and they are themselves the brain, the powerhouse of the strategy only. But even that will change very soon. So that's my lecture on digital skills. Then comes the analytical skills. So when you talk about analytical skills, yes, you are correct when you say that it's about analyzing. So sometimes I'm very intrigued by how people respond to questions. We let go of our inner child. When as a child, we will look at a word, we will want to see the root of the word and try to see what would that word really mean. Analytical skills is your ability to analyze. Simple. And that analysis can be of anything. It can be data, it can be numbers, it can be behaviors, it can be anything. When you master the skill of analysis, it is not restricted to, confined to only one area. When you say analytical skills, it is common for every situation, every data set, every number, and that's why it's taught in statistics. When we talk about analytical skills in the learning and development space, that is where we are talking about how to understand the various metrics that will help people measure learning better. So those are the analytical skills. I'm just giving an example from the learning space. We can do the same in case of operations. In operation, analytical skills would be to understand input, demand, supply, output, what are the risks, what are the mitigations, how you can make sure that the risk is met in case there's a shortfall, what you are required to do, ability to analyze it, preempt it, and not scramble at the end is your capability to analyze, and hence it is analytical skill. Behavioral skill, as rightly said, soft skills, conflict resolution, talking nicely, giving feedback, aligning with feedback, understanding the organizational goals, etc., etc. Organizational transformation skills are a difficult one to crack because many people get confused about how is it different from the other skills. Organizational transformation skills can be this is concentrated to the senior management team. Generally, it's the leadership skills about understanding when to change the direction of a company and what are the skills required for that. Ability to change management, ability to plan for the future, not 5 years, not 10 years, 20 years in the future. Being able to see what kind of technology innovation will completely destabilize your current business, which means that I will need to find a different way or to grow my business so that we still stay relevant. So organizational transformation skills are a difficult one to crack. Many organizations, including Google, including Apple, the organizational transformation skill there is innovation, 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 and more innovation. So they keep changing the way they do their work. They keep changing their course. They keep changing their execution strategy, but their core strategy stays the same. And that is what makes them unique. Why did I talk about this? You will get to know in the next slide. When we talk about aging workforce, we also have to be cognizant that the knowledge, sometimes the intangible knowledge, resides with these people who are older. So in case you do not have effective and efficient mechanisms to capture that knowledge, you will be upskilling till eternity because people will keep going. You will have to hire new people. This will become a vicious cycle. So there is a very high quotient of awareness that is required to understand what is the most efficient way to get the information, knowledge, tangible, intangible, properly documented and instituted in the pipeline for the future. What do I mean by instituted in the pipeline for the future? It means that the people who have a wealth of knowledge, who are aging, who are either at very high positions or are about to retire or about to leave, etc., etc., how many people are shadowing them? How many people are learning from them? How many people are they mentoring? How much training material, documentation is being created based on the information that that person can provide? I keep talking about two things parallelly. I talk about training materials and I also talk about shadowing, mentoring, learning. Obviously, the reason is there is some knowledge which can only be learned by seeing the person do the job. So that is the intangible, which cannot always be written down. But the tangible, which is like bookish knowledge or process knowledge or something that can be measured, can be written down. You, as a learning expert, need to have a strategy for both of the knowledge to be captured, for skilling not to be a spiral into infinity. Okay? So the need for upskilling, there are quite a few. So we've tried to put it here again. Very simple English, very logical, but when you put all of this together, it makes a lot of sense. To boost productivity, to adapt changes within workplace easily, to prepare future managers, to leverage new technologies, to engage team members, to build confident teams, to achieve mastery in current roles, to embrace the love of learning, and to boost a sense of belonging. And last but not the least, to develop soft skills. Very simple, easy to understand. Now we are going into the generational viewpoint, and that's where I spent some time talking about how different age groups impact. The generational viewpoint of upskilling is something that can make or break your digital transformation journey because you're highly depending upon the success of your strategy. And in case people are not catching on, there's a high chance that you will have to fall back and redesign your entire strategy, which is a waste of your time and money. So it is important for you to understand so that that doesn't happen, what kind of an approach will help to bring everybody along on the journey. So what will traditionalists prefer when they're trying to learn change? They will prefer passive learning environment. They like listening to lectures where they can make notes or memorize information because that's how they've learned. So we will have to provide them those avenues of learning. Transformational learning is something that baby boomers will go for, which means they prefer to actively discover information themselves, leading to long-term retention. Then Generation X, they like self-directed learning. I can also relate to it. Primarily, I want to read online. I don't want to be bothered. I'm okay. I will learn myself. I will have my own pace of learning. So like to decide what and how they will learn through self-regulation and direction. And the most recent generation, which is the millennials and Gen Z, they prefer to learn in an incidental fashion. That is also called scenario-based learning. And that is unstructured and outside of the classroom. So now that you know these are the groups of people you'll be dealing with, your learning strategy while implementing change has to take into consideration all the four styles based upon how much population each one of them has. And in case one group is irrationally huge as compared to others, it is not the majority wins. It is about the mix of the people you put in a group. And in case it's a very critical change that you're trying to implement, you might also want to separate the groups out in a very polite, non-informative manner to make sure that the training style can be audited and edited based upon the need of the people. So that's the generational viewpoint of learning. So I'm going to pause. I've been talking for a long time. Any questions, any doubts, any clarifications? I see there are 3 comments in the chat. I'm sorry, I haven't read them. So let me see. Sorry, Pradeep, I didn't see your question. Okay. Oh, okay. These are the 2 questions that have come in. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Any questions, comments? If I move to the next slide. Is it clear till now? Is it completely total bouncer or is it all right? I just need to do a status check for myself.
All right, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it is pretty clear, and the flow is very soft and
Great.
it's okay.
Thank you very much. So I couldn't find the most latest PwC CEO survey. It should be out. I keep tracking it, but so I've used the older statistics. Here we are talking about aspects of upskilling. Now, when we talk about aspects of upskilling, this is not a hard and fast response. When I ask that question in an examination paper, or if I have to ask it in an interview room, the responses can be different. This is the broad strokes, and it is from the CEO survey. So I thought I would bring it out here, and it is a good discussion to have. You can also think about various aspects of upskilling in case you had a company or you are working for a company. So what is the upskilling imperative? 79% of the CEOs are concerned about employees lacking essential skills and identify the issue as a threat to growth. 79%. But these numbers are dated. I'm sure the numbers would have gotten worse with the recent survey. The 60% of employees believe their current skill set will be outdated in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, how many of you are willing to take a bet with me that 60 has changed to 90 now in 2023? How many?
Yeah, post COVID, a lot of things have changed.
90% of the people are like, oh my God, AI in naukri kha lega mera. Okay. And then 46% of the CEOs cite significant retraining or upskilling as the top strategy to close potential skill gaps in the organization. So, aspect number one, focusing on career growth. That's the upskilling imperative. Aspect number two, protect and leverage organizational knowledge. And aspect number three, promote digital literacy. Now, you can have more aspects adding to it based on your organizational need and especially in which industry you belong to. This is not hard and fast. This is just a perspective that we've been able to pull based on the survey results. So just some food for thought. There is some additional reading material that I am willing to share with all of you if you promise to read them and be nice and good boys and girls. These are white papers. If you read about them, whatever concepts we are talking about, especially in terms of upskilling, the practical relevance, organizational longevity, it's actually very interesting, this one. It will give you a very good idea without having to memorize anything in this chapter. You will be able to talk about it, will be able to have an educated conversation, intelligent conversation with anybody who would like to talk to you on the concepts of upskilling or your thoughts about upskilling.
Please do share. We'll read it.
Yes, I will send it over email. There generally will be PDFs. So I promised some material for module number 2 that we finished. This is 3.1. And the next one we will have, next session we will have on the 29th of October. And I will try and finish off 3.2 as well, which would mean that we would have finished module number 3. And then we'll move into something which might be a little boring, which is module number 4, which I think is standards. I'm not sure. One second, let me see. Is module number 4 standards? Oh, no. Okay, continuous learning. Module number 4 is fun. There's one module which you might hate me for, is the e-learning standards. How many of you have seen the course material, the syllabus?
I've seen, ma'am.
Yeah, तो वो थोड़ा boring है. उसमें थोड़ा technical boring इसलिए है because not everybody is from an engineering background. For me, it was very easy, but it's very difficult to explain to somebody who is not from an electronics or an engineering background because it is a lot of technical jargon. And that's why I say it's a little boring, but sometimes you have to have the poison to know that what you have to be afraid of. It is something that is knowledge enhancing. And also it all enables you to be capable enough when you're having a conversation with a vendor or a procurement specialist and they are throwing various jargons and terms at you, which is not easy to understand and you've never heard about them before, like SCORM and all kinds of jargon people are throwing at you and trying to fool you, saying that this feature works, that feature works. If you are aware of the basic structure about how the standards work, if people are trying to sell something to you, which is not true, you will know. And you can actually counter. So that's, I'm sorry, totally out of context. That's going to be module number 5. It's not module number 4. But having said that, hooray, we have ended a little early. So I will give you some time back on Sunday. It gives me perfect time to also catch up my cab and get ready. You guys have a lovely Sunday. In case there are any questions, I'm still here, no problem. But in case there isn't, then I can give you some time back. Any questions, clarifications, doubts that I can help you with?
No, thank you, ma'am.
All right. Bye. I'll see you next Sunday.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Bye.
ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.